Welcome to episode number 1 of Getting Real with John Natale. I'm your host, and I will be here as a guide throughout this podcast. Not only sharing all of my history, all of my experience, all the wisdom that I can share with you, but also bringing in guests who can share their wisdom, their guidance, so we could get better as an industry. This podcast is for realtors who want to grow their business. It's that simple. Whether you're brand new, you're starting to grow a little bit, and you just want to last, this is for you. I'm going to start by sharing who this is not for, because this is not who I am. This podcast is not for the person that wants to sacrifice their family. They don't want friends. They don't want a life. They just want to sell homes, be number one, and have all that ego be about them. That is not who I am. That is not who this podcast is. Who I am is a dedicated father and husband. I care about my family and I care about spending time with my family. The reason I got into real estate in 2008 and stuck with it when I graduated college in 2011 was simple. I saw the path for me to have a sales-based business of helping people do something monumental in their life. And at the same time, I knew down the line there would be a pathway for me to enjoy the time with my family. Does that mean you get every single moment? Does that mean there's no stress? Does that mean you get to choose exactly what you're doing 24 hours of the day, no matter what? No. And if you've been in real estate so far, you know that that's not the truth. But the reality is, I've done things, and some of the guests I'm going to bring onto the show have done things to maximize their life, to make it better, to make their business better, and to be able to spend their time with their family and enjoy it, and not be checking their phone every 7 seconds to see if a deal went through. To be able to offer guidance to clients without the need of every deal. That's the life I live. We are currently in one of the hardest markets I've seen since I started in 2008. I just recently crunched the numbers for our area, and we are actually at levels, transaction-wise, below 2008. So the industry is changing. There's no doubt about it. And this first episode, I'm going to lay out why I'm creating this podcast and what I see wrong with the real estate industry. And from there, I'm going to guide and go over different things, make it very tactical to help you grow your business and grow your life. That's who I am, and I'm excited to get started on this journey with you. Now let's start, why am I starting this podcast? Why am I starting to do this? And I think the biggest reason to me is I have a different way of doing business. I've always had a different way of helping clients. And I have a different way of helping agents than the typical broker or team leader. And I realize as much change as I'd love to have in our small area of New Jersey, there's an exponential audience out there. And when I started posting content online between TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all these different places, I had agents reaching out to me left and right, asking for help with one specific area of their business, how to grow on social, how to create a personal brand, how to do all these different things that I've done. And I said to myself, this is one portal, but at the same time, there's a massive audience out there that is waiting for your help. So I went out and I said, okay, how can I affect the most amount of change? And the reason I think I have a completely different style than others is very simple. I'm not here to be number one. I could care less about all these Circle of Excellence awards or whatever your award is for your area. I could care less. I've won them all. I've made millions of dollars selling real estate. But that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the time it buys me back and the moments I get to enjoy with my wife and my son. Because that's the stuff you can never get back. And real estate honestly offers you the best possibility in any career choice, in my opinion, to do all those things while making rock star level money. So there's obviously a need out there. There's a need for information. I wouldn't have agents reaching out to me left and right if their brokers, their team leaders, their mentors were offering everything that they should be. And let's talk about how many agents fail first, because that's the big why. 86% of agents are out of this business within 5 years. That means if you're less than 5 years in, you only have a 14% chance of success statistically. Now, the fact that you're watching this and or listening to this most likely means you're going to be in that 14% that does. Because I find the people who just get into the business, do one or two things, they try it for a little bit, they realize how damn frustrating this all is, they're the ones who get out, usually within a year or two, because it just doesn't make them any money. Now, where I do fit in with a lot of people, I think, is by having that different style, coming from a different angle, and at the same time, being able to offer 15 years of experience. I didn't get licensed at 45 and now I'm 60. I got licensed at 19 and I just turned 34. So I've seen it all. I've been a absolutely broke young 20s kid out there on my own. I've been a mid-20s broke with some success. I've been a late 20s making crap ton of money with not a lot to show for it. And I've been a young 30s right now with very, very good income. And at the same time, just eclipsed being a millionaire with my wife. And I've made personal choices along the way that I have the experience to help so many different people, whether you are someone younger than me, trying to grow their business and starting out, whether you're my age, just getting in, and you want to say by 45, I want to be where you are. If you're someone who's in their 40s, 50s, and you don't understand the technology, I'm going to be able to help you. I am going to share my wisdom because I've done everything to get business. I've tried everything and anything. I've prospected, I've called FSBOs, I've called expireds, I've circle prospected, I've sent out mailers, I've door knocked, I use social to leverage my business, I do networking, I do everything, and I've done everything. And I'm going to share all of that, and I'm going to bring guests on that really, really know how to do it all. Because what we've seen in the last few years, 5 years ago, everything was about the team. And the team was a specific role for everybody. Someone was a buyer specialist, listing specialist, showing agent, this, that, and another thing. And when I started my team a little over 5 years ago, I said to myself, this isn't right. This doesn't make sense. This is not going to last this way. There's just no way that someone can make such a small split or whatever the scenario was for each prospective role of a team. And so when I started my team, I started it as a brokerage. And the reason I did that was very, very simple. If you teach agents to be agents that are well-rounded, they will be able to go with the ebbs and flows of the market. If you teach agents to do one skill and their eyes are only on one thing, it is very, very hard for them to succeed over a long period of time. Maybe for a 2 or 3 year span, they will absolutely crush it. But either burnout will hit, or the market will change, and something will happen where that's not feasible anymore. And that's where I think I've always had a different eye, and I'm going to bring that experience to this podcast. That's my why, because I have the experience and I know there's a need out there. Agents are failing way too often. It's not that hard of a business. Yes, you have to put yourself out there. If you're not willing to do so, turn this off right now and pack it in. If you're not willing to make yourself uncomfortable, you are never going to have success. That's just the honest truth of it. You're not a data analyst. You can't sit behind a computer and do IT work. You have to put yourself out there. I am, no lie, one of the most introverted people you'll ever meet. If I didn't have to see people, talk to people, meet with people, I'd be the happiest person in the world. You give me a book, my couch, silence, I am good. But at the same time, that's not what is success. Success is on the other side of that. You can't curl up with a book forever. You have to put yourself out there. So if you're willing to put yourself out there, I want you to come on this journey with me. I want you to listen to this podcast. I am going to do whatever I can to bring as much value back to you as the newer realtor trying to grow, someone thinking about getting in the business, someone who's had some success and wants to step it up, build a team, maybe open their own company, leverage your personal brand, if you're that person, you are my listener. If you're someone who's sitting there I want to make $5 million a year and I don't ever want to see my kids, I never want to see my wife, I only want it to be about me, it's my name, it's everything, I'm not your guy. I'm just telling you from the very early onset of this podcast. Because the reality is, as much as you want to talk to everyone, the message only goes through to a very small amount. But I also know that small amount of people who are hungry, want to enjoy their family, they are out there. And that's who I'm making this podcast. The reality is the real estate industry is designed for many agents to fail. And if not fail, it's for them to burn out. Because there is a huge amount of money that is out to be made by NAR, the MLSs, many brokers, franchises. All of these entities are in this together to make sure that agents come and go from this business. And that's what I'm going to leave this first episode with. Why there is so much turnover. If you haven't noticed already, either whether you're new or not, you're going to realize a few things about where you work. Number one is most likely there's some sort of title company, mortgage company, attorney, some other entity that is either pushed by your broker, is invested in the company, or owned by the same company. And all of those entities together are why your broker cares about you. If they didn't go to you and say, hey, you have an awesome personal brand, I want you to come here, and you just walked up and said, hey, I want to join you, there's a reason for that. Agent count is important to your franchise broker, to the title company that pays them a huge monthly sum, to the mortgage company that pays them a monthly sum, wants to see agent count, the MLS who charges us all dues to be a part of, wants high agent count because then that means it's more money for them. The NAR, National Association of Realtors, realistically wants as high of agent count as possible. If they valued very, very high level of business professionals in the industry, you would have only a few dozen realtors in your area. And the reality is, when you actually look at your area, if you're, say, a mid-level agent to a top agent, you look out and you realize you're only competing with a few dozen people. Like, I am only competing as a broker and as an owner of this company, I compete with maybe 15 to 20 people in my market, truly compete with them. And that's really how it should be, but it's not. And it's not going to change. There's just too much. NAR is a massive trade union. They have millions, if not billions of dollars to spend. And it's a trade lobby and they work on our behalf. It's not 100% bad, but you have to realize that they make their money from agent count being high. All of our dues that come in are what funds NAR. And so when you understand that NAR does well with agent count, MLSs, at a local level, your Association of Realtors does well with agent count, your broker does well with agent count, the companies that pay your broker do well with agent count, now you kind of start to see why. Why is it this way? And the reality is, you can either put yourself in a position where you just become a number, or you could start to put yourself in position to be the brand that people actually want to work with. Because the system is designed for you to fail. Because the sooner you get out, there's probably 2 or 3 people that want to get in. And that turnover makes it an appealing industry, rather than if it was very hard to break into, like just to get into the industry, like to do all this high level things, it was very expensive and there was only a few dozen people to compete with, not that many people would become a realtor. If you looked out and you said there's 30 realtors in our area and all of them make massive amounts of money, but it is damn near impossible to be one of them, you would never, ever even try. So it's not all a bad thing, but the reality is all of this, the entire system depends on high agent count, because that brings in the dollars when it comes to dues, no matter where you are. So you understand why there's a need for very high level information, why I think I can fit in, why I'm making this podcast. Because I think my experience, everything I've been through, I've lived a long life for someone who's 34 years old. And I'm going to share bits and pieces of that as we go on. And I'm going to get real with agents that come on here and business leaders and business owners that come on here, because there's so much about our industry that is clouded in doubt and clouded in secrecy. There's so much gatekeeping. And we're going to break that down in this podcast. We're going to break it down. You're going to get absolutely 100% real information from me and the people who come on the show. Because if someone's BSing me at any point in an interview, then there's a good chance I'm going to be able to spot it. I know how to read people from sitting with thousands upon thousands of homeowners, home buyers, everything in between, other business leaders, other business owners. I've done it over and over again over the last 15 years in this business. And we're going to get real. And that's the point of this podcast. And I hope you come along for the journey. This is going to be one of the most exciting chapters in my life. And I am so damn excited to get started. Even just sitting here looking at this camera right now has me more hyped up than ever before, because I knew this is just the first step of what we're planning here. And I'm excited to get real with you.